All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is David Jackson. I am the current president of the BGSU Faculty Association. And today we have a very important event that we were able to do for you. Important on a couple different levels. Rudy Fichtenbaum, professor of economics at Wright State University, and the president-elect of the National American Association of University Professors, our affiliated union, is here today. And so that fact alone signifies the support of the organization for BGSU faculty. So that alone would be worth your coming out today to hear whatever Rudy happened to have to say. Because it's all important now, and it always was. Secondly, though, and more specifically, what Rudy is here today to talk about is an analysis that he has performed of the last 5 years of the audited financial statements of Bowling Green State University. I've learned a lot from Rudy over the last 3 or 4 years since I've been involved in the AEP movement. And one of the most important things I learned from him was budgets are interesting, but audited financial statements are where you really see where the money came in and where the money went. And he didn't look at just 1 year, he looked at the last 5 years and has put together a report, 48 single-spaced written pages with charts and graphs and paragraph on the back of each one explaining what it's about for those of you who are analysis restaurant fans. And then there's also a shorter piece written by Lawrence Coates, who is our faculty senate liaison, who has a fascinating background of coming from a family of accountants, but he himself is an English major. So you've got a piece that reads well and is an accurate reflection of our financial position in a shorter format. But we're going to have Rudy talk for about 10 minutes about the highlights of the content, and then take questions from our audience and the reporters who are here as well. And if all goes according to plan, this will eventually be uploaded to the BGSU-FA YouTube channel, which is something we've started today. So the organization continues to move forward. So without further ado, President-elect of the AEP, Dr. Rudy Fichtenbaum.
Okay, well, thank you all for inviting me here, and it's a pleasure to be back at Bowling Green State University again. As David mentioned, I've done this financial analysis that actually looks at what has happened at Bowling Green from 2006 to 2011, so it covers actually 6 years. I'm not gonna kind of bore you with all kinds of the nitty-gritty details that are covered in the report, but highlight what I think are a few important things to keep in mind. One, just to give you some context and background, I think we all recognize that public higher education, not only in Ohio but across the country, is facing some unprecedented challenges. Virtually all the states, although it varies to differing degrees, were hit by the Great Recession, the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression, and clearly that's had an impact on higher education. However, one of the things that uniformly we've been finding as we do these analyses across the country is that just because a state gets quote unquote in trouble does not mean that the universities are in trouble, and that many times what has happened is that administrators have tried to use this as an opportunity to carry out an agenda which they had all along, but now this was kind of a good excuse to do so. So clearly, I don't want to say that there aren't any challenges facing, state universities in Ohio and Bowling Green. Clearly there are. However, we also at the same time are seeing some patterns where, clearly you can see in the statistics the downturn and the effect that it had in 2008 and 9, but then, the universities have roared back, and this is the case here in both 10 and especially in 11 in terms of their financial performance. And I just did a presentation at our Midwest Collective Bargaining Congress meeting, and showed over and over again this same pattern at university after university, and we see it here at Bowling Green. So that, right now the university has $169 million in unrestricted net assets. That was in its 2011 financial statements. And again, that doesn't just say that, oh, well, we can use all of that. Every university wants to have some kind of a reserve, but the fact that they have it says that they've done, their performance is certainly not indicative of any kind of major problem here. So that would be one number certainly to pay attention to. It's kind of like money that you've got in your savings account, if you want to look at it that way. These are unrestricted net assets. I will say that oftentimes universities will say that, well, these things are designated, and that's kind of a standard line. It's just like me saying, well, I have a certain amount of money in my savings account, and some of it is set aside for my retirement, some of it is set aside for my kids' college education, so I've designated it. But, when my kid walks in and says, hey, Dad, I got a hole in my shoe, that says, well, maybe I need to adjust some of my priorities and say, I don't have to have as big a balance in my savings account. I don't have to increase the balance at the same rate, especially if my kid's walking around with holes in his shoes. So when you look at, I think, most of the indicators of what's happening at the university, whether it's in the income statement, and actually what I think is kind of most important is the cash flow statement. Well, I'm getting there, but I'm gonna make a little bit of a stop before I get there, and that is say one of the things that we can get out of looking at these income statements is to look at approximately how much the university is spending on its on faculty. And again, these are estimates, but if you look at the instructional expense, which everybody thinks, whenever they look at that, they think, oh, it's the faculty, right? I mean, what else could instructional expense be? But actually, just a little bit over 50% of the instructional expense is spent on paying for the full-time faculty, and that's shown on page 32. If you want to look at that graph, and it's actually been trending down slightly, but not dramatically, but looks like it's trending down slightly there. So I think that's an important note to take, because again, it says something about the priorities of an institution. One of the things that I think I also pointed out in the report, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure which page, but I know I've already spoken about this, that the compensation, so salary and benefits of the full-time faculty as a whole, are only about 18% of the operating costs at the university.